to another edition of the Student Fire Podcast, live from the Speak Fire studio. My name is Bobby Burke. I'm a motivational speaker for schools, and I'm here to help you live your best life today. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Student Fire Podcast, live from the Speak Fire studio. I'm your host, Bobby Burke. I'm a social and emotional learning coach, and y'all, I cannot thank you enough for all of your constant support and for just tuning in. Seriously, you guys all make this show so fun. You make this life exciting. It's exhilarating to be able to do this, to be able to interact with you from thousands of miles away from wherever you are. I love it. So I want to talk about something today. I know we're skipping our moment of mindfulness where we're taking a couple seconds to just center ourselves and be where we're at, but there's a reason for it. So I was on a coaching call with a kid actually a couple minutes ago, and we were really starting to get in the weeds of why they're feeling off this morning. They woke up, they had a perfect day yesterday, their weekend was incredible, their week prior was amazing, everything was going well for them. Yet they woke up and they're feeling really down. They're really depressed. And not just a normal, oh man, I'm feeling a little down now. They said, I had to talk myself into getting out of bed. And then to get dressed and actually get on Zoom for school today, like, y'all, I really had to struggle with this. And I don't know where this came from. And my student and I, we kept talking and we started, peeling the onion back a little bit. And they had this really awesome technique. They said, Bobby, my therapist has me do this from time to time, and I want to try this with you. And I said, whatever, man, let's do this. And they said, well, I want to say something vulnerable, and then I want you to say something vulnerable back. Because I think for me, what I need is I consciously know that you're giving me the space to be open, to be vulnerable, to be my authentic, uninterrupted, unapologetic self. But for some reason, my subconscious doesn't want to take that last brick down. And I think I'm at the point today where I think that'd be the perfect thing to get over this little hump I'm in. And I said, all right, let's do this. And I'm not going to lie to you, I was really nervous about this. How many of you have ever done this? Have you ever done something like that? Just kind of chuckle to yourself real quick, because it's hard. It's very hard just opening up, and we all think that we're open people, but when you really get down to the nitty-gritty of it, most of us have a side that we allow the world to see. Most of us have a side that we are comfortable being open with, but there are a lot of parts of us that we keep secret and we hold close to the chest. Well, my student and I started doing this, and they started the conversation off by saying, Bobby, for the past 8 years, I've legitimately hated myself. And I don't mean this in, I hate myself for the joke when you do something goofy. He goes, I really, legitimately don't like who I am. That's how the conversation started. Now granted, this exercise does not have to be something where you go back and forth and try and top one another as far as whose trauma is worse. That's not it at all. It's just giving each other the floor to be open. And I said, well, if it's any consolation, I really don't believe in myself about 80% of the time when I start a new project. I really don't think I can do it. But for me, the joy in that is realizing that is trying and realizing that I'm capable of a lot more than I give myself credit for. And we went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth for probably about 5 minutes. And it was really hard. It was very difficult to just get that raw with yourself, not even the other person. The other person is really just a sounding board. But to say out loud and manifest what your insecurities really are is such a powerful tool, but it's hard to do. Well, after the 5 minutes was up, my student looks at me and they go, Bobby, here's my last one. I really, I'm not planning on killing myself, but I've thought about what would happen if it happened. And y'all, it shook me because I had never even imagined this student would have been going through something like that. And they said, I'm not suicidal. I've talked to my therapist about this, and they say that it's normal to consider death. But I don't do it in the physical sense of me actually dying. I'm looking at it more from a philosophical stance. So probably about a year ago, I had introduced my student to Alan Watts, who has this wonderful lecture series called You're It. You can find it on Audible. You can find it anywhere. It's where any major, audio retailer is. Well, he said, Alan Watts has this thing where he goes, try and imagine what it would be like to go to sleep and never wake up. And then he keeps going and he says, now try and imagine what it was like waking up for the first time after having never gone to sleep. That's what happened when you were born. And it's just a fun philosophical trope to discuss because there's no real answer. It's just fun to discuss. And I want you, why am I explaining all of this? Why am I going on this 5-minute rant? Because what I want a lot of you to do this week is I want you to realize that you're okay. If you're not feeling up to 10, it's okay. If you're only feeling it like a 4 or 5, that's cool. If you're really just struggling to get out of bed and you're down at a 1 or a 2, that's okay. We all go through difficult times, especially with the weather changing, seasonal depression is kicking in. It happens. But I want you to try that exercise. You don't necessarily have to do it with a friend or with someone that you're comfortable with. You can just do it. Just look at yourself in the mirror and just have that vulnerability conversation and just start saying things, set a clock for 30 seconds and make a plan to say at least 5 vulnerable things that you're afraid to say out loud and see how you feel afterwards. Because I'll tell you right now, when my student and I were done with this conversation and we were wrapping up the coaching call, they said, Bobby, thanks. And I said, for what? And they go, honestly, because you have a way of giving me the floor that doesn't make me feel dumb. You don't make me feel embarrassed. You don't make me feel like this is, like, even though we're doing something weird, like, this is not a comfortable exercise. And you just said, all right, cool, let's do it. Because for you, it was as much about my growth as it was going through the journey yourself. And I really appreciate that. And you know what happened? At least for that day, they have had a great day because they got that weight off their shoulders. This week, I want you to try this exercise. I want you to get that weight off your shoulders. I want you to find a way to just stop holding all of these things in your chest that you're afraid to say because you're afraid to say them out loud. I want you to be honest with yourself for the first time in a long time. Again, with winter coming, as we did last year, we're going to start getting into the philosophical side of school. And I know a lot of you are really digging this last year, especially when we went over our learning styles. I'm just so you're aware of what's going on. I'm going to be redoing the learning style series. I'm going to be going over another series based off the DISC assessment. If you haven't read about what a DISC assessment is, I highly, highly, highly recommend you look it up. There will be a couple links. I'll throw a link in the description for one of them just to give you some history on it. And we're going to start breaking down that DISC and how that can apply to you personally. And then we're also going to start implying your learning style with the DISC and how that can make your learning better in school, and not only in school, but in life. Because again, there's no such thing as a stupid person. There are only people that don't know how they learn and are frustrated because they don't know how they learn. So that's all I have for you. I hope everyone has a wonderful week. I hope you stay positive. I hope you stay honest. I hope you can stay you for the whole week and be comfortable being vulnerable this week. Catch y'all on the next one. Peace. Whew, that was another awesome episode of the Student Fire podcast. Thank y'all for sticking around for this long, but I got a question for you. Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? See, when I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions, like how do I record an episode? How do I get my show to apps? Like, do I have to do it individually, or can I just have one place that does everything for me? And most importantly, how do I make money from my podcast? Is that even an option? Well, honestly, y'all, your answer is Anchor. Anchor is the one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it is 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors that want to advertise on your podcast. Yes, you. That means you can get paid to make the podcast. You can get paid to podcast the right way. In fact, that's exactly what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. If you want to get down on this, if you want to make your podcast a reality and you want your success and your word to be a thing, man, you already know. Hop over to Anchor and give it a start. You won't regret it. Catch y'all in the next episode. Peace.
I got you.
It's coming.
Are you ready to ignite the fire?
We are Speak Fire.
Oh, and by the way, that's fire with a Y.
What's going on, everyone?
Internal fire.
Student fire.
Young fire.
Father's fire.
Leadership fire.
Champion fire.
Unlocking the fire within.
Thank you all for tuning in. Let's grow.
Speak fire.
Speakfire.com.
Speak fire with a Y.
We have a new episode that comes out every Monday at 4 a.m. Are you going to be up with us?
Deuces.
I am excited to bring you my new book, Trendsetter, 7 Steps to Radically Stand Out to Be the Best You. This book details my journey of coming to the United States and being excited to embrace the American culture. But unfortunately, my culture was not accepted, and I found myself being bullied as a young girl. And in this process, I decided that I wanted to disconnect from my culture to be more accepted into American culture. And through that process, I got so depressed from trying to fit in that I attempted suicide my freshman year in high school. So this book talks about the journey of what I did to become radically transformed, to be the strong woman I am today. This book is something that's really going to enable the reader to understand and embrace who they are, embrace what makes them special, and become radically transformed. Get your copy today at becomingatrendsetter.com. Again, that is becomingatrendsetter.com. Or check it out at my website at aishathomas.org.